I won the World Cup. Look at this, baby. Mwah! The World Cup. No, I didn't win the World Cup, but this is the week of the World Cup. Argentina won the World Cup. I think it's been about 36 years since the last time they won the World Cup with the great Diego Maradona. And this year, it was the great Messi who won the World Cup. So yes, this is not the real World Cup. It certainly feels like it though. It's really heavy, it's solid. And I actually bought this from Argentina in 2018 when I was over in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and I was competing in the World Taekwondo Championships. And while I was going shopping, I came across this magnificent piece. I thought that would just look magnificent in my home, in my room of greatness, because I like to surround myself with the reminders of greatness so I myself can live a great life. Now, I didn't win this, I bought it. So me jumping around saying I won the World Cup doesn't really fulfill me whatsoever. It's like me going out and buying an Olympic gold medal. It's not about the medal, it's the person behind the medal and who they had to become to deserve the medal that makes the medal a reminder of where you've been, your journey, what you did, what you sacrificed, who you had to become, the hardships to deserve the medal. Because in this life, you don't get what you want, you don't get what you need, you get what you deserve. So yes, it is an iconic time, an epic time for Argentina, because a lot of my very good fight friends from Taekwondo is Argentinians. And we became great fight friends because we fought each other, went through many battles. And it's funny that, I'll put this down because it's actually quite heavy, it's quite amazing that when you go onto a mat, and in martial arts it's very respectful. You know, we bow to our opponent, we beat each other up, then we hug, and then we become respected friends for the rest of our lives. And I've had some epic battles in Taekwondo competitions, and whether I win or lose, that person has my respect forever. And many times we become respected friends and stay in communication. You may notice in boxing even, I come from a great era of boxing in the 70s, with the Muhammad Ali's, the George Foremans, the Joe Frazers, and in the 80s you had the great middleweights of Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and at the time they were very competitive. However, they became lifelong respected friends. Even when Mike Tyson chewed off the ear of Evander Holyfield in his fight, he chewed his ear off and got disqualified. There was an uproar and they hated each other. Now they're actually quite close because they respect each other, because they're both gladiators who went into the Colosseum to do battle. And anyone who gets into the Colosseum, onto the mat, into the ring, any fighter or anyone who actually has the courage to chase their dreams in any arena of sport, business, life, hobbies, whatever it might be, you certainly get the respect of yourself, and you also get the respect from other people who know what you have done and what you've sacrificed to achieve that. So what is very interesting, and the topic of today is obviously how to go from a loser to a genius. And you think, wow, and loser is not necessarily in the word in a defamatory way towards that title, and I'll explain it more in detail. But what is interesting, I observed in this last week, or during the whole World Cup, and I have a good friend of mine, G, and he goes to the World Cup every 4 years because he loves soccer. My apologies, football, as I love martial arts. And he's been going there every 4 years for as long as I can remember. And even when I was over in Argentina, I bought a little mini World Cup and gave it to him as a gift so he can put it on his desk at home, because he loves soccer and he likes to surround himself with greatness because he wants also to live a great life. And sometimes you can, draw inspiration, and hey, if they can do it, so can I. And they're just normal people who get up in the morning, pee in the morning, they breathe, they bleed, and they go and achieve. So if they can do it, so can I. But the world is, as you know, full of opinions. And opinions are like bottoms. Everyone's got one, and most of them unfortunately stink. But if you're going to have an opinion, make sure it doesn't stink. Make sure it smells of a pleasurable fragrance that comes out of your mouth. And we will talk more about that today. But in the last few weeks, I've been following the soccer, my apologies again, the football, because I love to call it football. And really, it is really the only really football because you actually hit the ball with your foot, where other footballs should be really called handball. Maybe not so much in Australia, the AFL, that is a football version. However, football is the original. But it's really interesting, I've been watching it, and I'm not necessarily a football fan. I don't follow it, I don't watch it every week. However, when there's a major event of any sport, then I tend to watch it because then you get the best come together in one arena. And I love the psychological battle. It's not just the physical, but the psychological, the mind games. And you see elite athletes at the elite level compete. And you can learn a lot from that because you can draw lessons of that to apply to your own things that you're going to be great at. Every 4 years I watch the Olympics and I watch sports that I would never ever watch, whether it be diving or swimming or whatever it might be, or equestrian in the Olympics. And it's not because it's the sport that I enjoy, it's the element of greatness, it's the element of the high performance, it's the perfection that I love to watch because that's the lessons I want to marinate in to help me live my best life by watching other people be the best at what they do. But in the last, particularly since Argentina won, and Messi was brilliant by the way, just absolutely amazing. Obviously he's the X-factor player that the team tends to not rely on, but obviously it's great to have him as that magic, and it also creates intimidation for other teams when he's in the team, or whoever that might be. And they won, deservedly won, and because if they didn't deservedly won, they would have lost. But they won. And the world, well, parts of the world went crazy. Obviously, there's lots of teams who lost, who wanted to win, whether it be Germany or whether it be France in the final, and they're bitterly disappointed, but not so much bitter, because a great champion would never get bitter, they'll just get better. Rather than getting bitter, because nothing positive comes out of bitterness. So you change your bitter into becoming better, and then it's not if, it's just when you win what you want to win. I have this great saying when I train my fighters, and I've trained multiple world champions. It says if you train enough, and if you train enough and you compete enough and you become good enough, you will win enough. You won't win all the time, but you will win. This is Messi's probably last World Cup, and he's competed in quite a few. He's come close a couple of times, but he eventually has now got it because he didn't give up. He didn't get bitter. He obviously got better. I can't speak for him. I never met him, but he keeps showing up. There's a good start. He keeps showing up and he keeps getting better. So what is really interesting is once they won, there's all these opinions flying, and I see them when I look at just the headlines, and most of the headlines I don't even open, because the headlines are quite dramatic. If it's based on someone else's opinion about someone else or it's negative, I tend to avoid it because I know it's just the media trying to create a melodramatic negative headline to catch me hook, line and sinker, to read into it and get all emotional and addicted to it. And that's what people tend to do. They tend to just fall into these traps of other people's opinions. They become experts in other people's opinions about other people. So there's been lots of things that have happened, whether it be, now one of the debates, for example, is, I saw many times as, that team that goal should have been disqualified, or that goal shouldn't be allowed, or that person should be sent off. Well, there's lots of shoulds in life, and you become full of should. It is what it is, and there's going to be times that the call will go for you, times that the call will go against you, but if you keep competing at a high level enough, eventually the calls will go for you and you'll get what you came to get, whether that be winning a World Cup or success in your business life or success in a relationship or success in your sport. It doesn't matter. Sometimes there are subjective calls that will go for you, but eventually if you keep going, the tide will turn and they'll start going for you. And I've been in that case many times as a world champion in martial arts. Times I've fought and I thought I lost, but I actually won. I thought, I didn't think I would have won that one. And other times I thought I won, but I lost. And they all seem to even up at the end. But I don't attach my happiness or fulfillment to whether I win or lose. I attach it to my performance. And if I know that I left my heart, blood and guts on the mat when I fought, whatever happens, then I can be proud of what I did and who I became to achieve that. Because you can take the medals away, but you can't take who I have become. away. But one of the debates that floating around, I see it in different sports, is Messi's won the World Cup, and everyone's going, yes, that's it, that validates it, that verifies it. Without dispute, he's now the GOAT, the GOAT. And that's an interesting term that's come up. The GOAT means G-O, greatest of all time, G-O-A-T, the GOAT. Because there's this been running debate of who is the GOAT of football. Is it Messi, or is it over here, you can see Ronaldo, or is it down here, Pelé, or is it the great Maradona, or is it the Brazilian Ronaldo? So that's always going to be up to debate, and it's so funny that everyone gets so emotional about who the GOAT is. I obviously have a fighting background, and you have over here, you have the greatest, Muhammad Ali. He calls himself the greatest. Is he the GOAT of boxing? Oh no, and Floyd Mayweather's out there going, I'm the GOAT, I'm the GOAT. Because I got 50-0. Or is it Sugar Ray Robinson, who's had like 150 fights? Or is it Sugar Ray Leonard up here? Or is it Rocky Marciano? Or who is the GOAT of boxing? Who is the GOAT of tennis? Is it over here Federer? Or is it Djokovic? Or is it Nadal? Because they're so close. They're very close. He's on 20 majors, and then you have Nadal's on 22, and Djokovic is on 21, and so to me it's a very fascinating discussion. And personally, I'll share my opinion. I feel that if you choose one GOAT over another GOAT, it's disrespectful to the other GOAT, because it depends on which metric you use to measure who is the best. They come from different eras, they have different styles, they play in different teams, they've had different opportunities. But what they have, all of them, amassed a accumulation of such pinnacle success, they're in the group of the GOATs. And I think if you just mention their name, then they are a GOAT, the greatest of all time, because otherwise you wouldn't be talking about them. Whether you say, no, Ronaldo's not the GOAT, Ronaldo's not the GOAT, well, he is, because you're talking about him. Because if he wasn't in that group, you wouldn't be trying to pull him out of the group. Because ultimately, if you're in that discussion, whether it be tennis, or boxing, or football, or in cricket, you can't always compare. The different technology, the rackets are different. In cricket, the bats are different, the fields are different. It's different. The training is different. The technology is different. So to cross-compare eras and players and teams, if they're at that surface, at that peak, and you're discussing them, then to pick one over the other, to me personally, is disrespectful. I have respect for all of them, and I can learn from all of them. Because sometimes you pick the GOAT based on, it's from your country, right? Because now all the Argentinians are saying, that's it, Messi's the GOAT. Or you might be a Messi fan. You may not even know him. You might be a Ronaldo fan because you like his haircut or his body. You may be a Diego Maradona fan because he's a bit of a crazy Argentinian. Or you might be a Pelé fan because he's won 3 World Cups. Well, that's just one metric. My point being is that if that name is in the discussion, then to be respectful as someone who wants to become great. Because you find a lot of these people aren't talking about them being the GOAT. Sometimes you do. A lot of the time, they're not saying, I'm the GOAT. No, I'm the GOAT. No, I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. Because they never started playing the game to be the GOAT. They started playing the game because they loved the game. And they wanted to really test themselves and become the best they can possibly be. And as a consequence of that, over many decades of playing, they put themselves in that position where other people are now arguing on their behalf of where they lie in history. Well, they are in history. So it's interesting when you look at that. So, and you also find that, you find the celebration. I saw a drone of Buenos Aires and how many people up there celebrating. And it's fantastic. And I was very happy. Not that I know Messi or anything. I was very happy that he got the World Cup, because that's one of the things that was probably on his mind. I've got to get that trophy for the shelf. Ronaldo probably this is less likely to get it because even not to take away from him as a great player because he is one of the best players in the world, in the history of the world, but he belongs to Portugal, so that team probably is not going to be like Germany or France or Argentina or Brazil, where because you're only one person and sometimes you can only rise to the level of what your team players will allow you to. So sometimes you might be compromised because you're not going to be in a team, even though you're the best player in the team, the best player in the world, but you're not going to be the best team in the world. So again, there's lots of different metrics, but I find there's quite emotional. People get very emotional about other people. And talking about people, there are 3 types of people in the world. And this is according to the great Einstein, one of the all-time geniuses in history. He classifies people into 3 different categories. And I'm going to use the World Cup as an example to describe this. And you have to decide where you fit in these 3 and where you want to fit in the future. So the first group are called losers. Losers. So again, I would describe that. And they're not called losers because, what people call losers in a negative way. They're called losers for a different reason. I'll explain that. Then there's a second group called the average people. And there's a third group called the geniuses. Now, first of all, I'll give you a clue. All these people here are geniuses. They're geniuses in their field of expertise. I'm not saying they're geniuses in other areas. For all I know, Muhammad Ali may not even know how to change a car tyre because he's never changed one. So he may not be a genius in being a mechanic, but he's certainly a genius in his craft, which is boxing. You can be a genius in your field, whether it be accounting or your business or entrepreneurship or a genius in politics, or you can be a genius in those areas. And there's certainly politicians in the history of the world who have been geniuses. They're going down to Winston Churchill, who we all know. This when a genius doesn't mean you're a genius in everything. It just means you're a genius in your field of interest or passion or purpose, vision or mission. So the first group, let's talk about the losers. And these are the characteristics that Einstein refers to, and I can relate to this. Is losers you can always pick up losers by listening to their vocabulary, because what people think is what they say, and what they say is who they are. Because you are a reflection of your thoughts and how you express those thoughts through vocabulary. So you can listen to certain words in someone. You can pick up someone with their negative or positive, because everything there's doom and gloom, where everything is prosperous and opportunist. So you find the doom and gloomers are always doom and glooming, even when times are good. Oh, they're not going to last. This good times aren't going to last for long. And when it does go gloomy, says, I told you it's going to be doom and gloom. It's probably because they created it in their mindset anyway. Where the opportunists and the positive people, no matter what they're going through, they're always optimistic. The opportunists, and they always see the bright side of life. As the great song goes, always look on the bright side of life. You may remember that song from one of the Monty Python series. But that's what they tend to do. But when it goes to losers, all they talk about is other people. They tend to talk about other people. And most of the time, a lot of the time, it's people they haven't even met, but they have an opinion about other people. And unfortunately, most of the time, it's on the negative. Most of the time, it's the negative. They tend to pull people down. We call them pullers. They use other people climbing the dreams and they're pulling them down, probably because they're not climbing their dream. They're not achieving their dream, so they spend their time looking at other people in a negative way. So you hear what so-and-so said. Now, the people who are talking about other people, at the moment, they're talking about who's the GOAT. Well, I think Messi's the GOAT. No, it's Ronaldo, he's the GOAT. No, it's Muhammad Ali's the GOAT of boxing. No, it's Floyd Mayweather or Sugar Ray Robinson. No, it's Federer's the GOAT of tennis. But these people have never competed at that level. They've never done what those people have done, but they have a strong opinion who they think is the best player. So they're talking about other people. And so I know that person, they're not very good, they're terrible. Look at the metrics on that one. This is better. They're not a very nice person. So basically what they're doing is gossiping, because gossiping is talking about things you don't know about. You may know from a distance and the surface and the stats, but you don't know the deeper understanding of a person, of what they've done and how valuable they are. A lot of people have an opinion about other people and they haven't even met them. And if they have met them, it's for a minuscule amount of time, or someone they know has met them, and then they form an opinion based on someone else's opinion about that person, whether it be positive or negative, and they take it on board, they take ownership of it, and they spread it like thistles on the wind. So it's called gossip. It's gossip because, as we know, if someone's talking gossip, probably 95% of it is not true. A lot of people talk about me, but they haven't ever met me. It might be positive, might be negative, and wherever they validate that from, it's just to satisfy their emotion, whatever it might be. They may not like my haircut or my hairstyle, so they think, oh no, he's not a very nice person. I've had many people who have met me and they like me, but before they didn't like me, before they met me, because they heard something negative about me. I don't know. It's not about me anyway, because what other people think of me is none of my business. But if you're one of those people who sits around and gets together with other people and have gossiping sessions and all you do is talk about other people, a lot of time it's in the negative, or you hear what the Jones are doing, well, you wouldn't believe that, or that's not very good, oh, they've broken up, or isn't that a shame? And sometimes they get a little bit of glee out of other people's failures. If you get satisfaction out of other people failing, that's not really a good headspace to be, because it's a very negative. It's getting gratification by seeing other people fail. That is a gossiper. That is a loser, because a loser is someone who loses their life by spending too much time looking in, having an opinion of other people's lives, whether it be your neighbours, whether it be your fellow workers, whether it be your opposition companies in business, whether it be your opposition players or your team players or people you have not even met. That's called being a loser, because you've lost your own life. You're spending all your time, you probably buy the gossip magazines, they're not around so much now, but they buy the weekly gossip magazines that talk about the movie stars and all the gossipers, and then now it's the influencers, and they all have opinions about it, and they have a get on social media, they have a little bicker, and they have a bite and a bitch and all that bit. That's called loser material, and sometimes people can make money out of being a loser by being gossiping, because people follow them for their gossip, but that's still a loser, because you're losing your life out of, or making a living out of other people's lives in a negative way. So that's Einstein's view of a loser. You're whinging or complaining or bitching about other people most of the time behind their back, because you never had the balls to do it in front of their face. Your keyboard warriors getting on there, sharing your opinion is a great saying. How do you start an argument? Easy, just post an opinion online and everyone will get on there and have their view from all over the place about stuff they've never experienced, people they've never met, who are living in probably a very loose life because they don't have one to occupy their life, so they spend their time looking at other people's lives and having opinions and sharing it. Interesting, isn't it? So they get together and talk loser. So that's the first type of person. The second type are what Einstein called average people. And these people spend their life really in events. You know, they're events. They spend time, well, what are you doing on the weekend? Oh, yeah, okay, that's the weekend. Well, they talk about events. The weather is a big topic, you know. Oh, hot day, isn't it? And they spend this time talking about the weather, which they have no control over. And they spend all this, and sometimes they get upset. It looks like it's going to rain. Oh, that's terrible, it's going to rain. They get upset about something, have no control of it. Is it going to rain? Of course it's going to rain. Eventually it's going to rain. It might be rainy season. Oh, it's so hot. Geez, it's so hot. Well, of course it's hot. It's summer. Oh, it's so cold. It's called winter. Oh, that's snow. Yeah, well, move. Move to the equator if you don't like the snow, but don't bitch about it. Don't go and live in the snow and bitch about it. So they talk about events, and those events could be the weather. They occupy a lot of their life talking about events. It might be interests they follow. Now, I'm not saying that you don't follow events or don't follow interests, but as long as those interests aren't taking you away from what's most important, is living your life. For example, I use football again since the World Cup. A lot of people have been waiting 4 years for the World Cup. They've been waiting. They haven't been building their life. They've just been waiting for the World Cup, and they go there and they go, yeah, and whoa, and they get really happy or angry. Sometimes the football fans, if their team loses, they go and wreck the streets and burn cars and riot because their team lost, or their team lost, whatever it might be. You see it historically in football over in England, where they go crazy and they have fights and they fight each other over a team because of their flags or their jersey or what country they're from or what club they're from. So they spend their life emotionally attached to, yes, my team won, and they're happy or they're miserable. Happy when they win, miserable when they lose. Yeah! Ooh. The French, damn ref, shouldn't have allowed that goal from Messi to go in. Whatever, I saw something like that. But it doesn't matter. So their whole life is events. That events might be, they go to the movies and they follow all the movies, or they go to the concerts, or they go to their football game. In New Zealand, it's the All Blacks. Yes, I follow the All Blacks. They go to the games, they get upset, who should be picked and who shouldn't be picked, and also, and that's their life. Their life is following other people's events, not creating your own event, following other people's events and being addicted to it. And in Argentina, they're going crazy, which is great, as long as you're going crazy for the right reason. If that is your only form of happiness, then there could be a challenge, right? Because what if they lose? Then you're going to be miserable for 4 years until you win. It's been 36 years between drinks for Argentina to win the World Cup. So a lot of people will follow events. They will pay a ticket to go into a stadium to watch someone else live their dream. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are living your life, building your own stadium, living your dream, then you go into someone else's stadium to pay a ticket to watch them, because that inspires you and gives you mutual respect. And you go, yes, if they can do it, so can I. I respect what they do because I'm doing it in my own world. And those things are feeding each other. But if that's the only thing that's in your world, then that's what we call average people. They live for the weekend. They work Monday to Friday in a job they don't love, putting up with people they don't like, going in, knowing, beating the traffic, living in the city, the rat race, to live for the weekend, to do an event, where they might be go to the beach or so on the weekend they go and do what they want to do, or they go and follow events to distract them from the lack of events in their life, their own event. So that's what we call, what Einstein refers to as average people. Because the challenge for other people's events is it may not always go your way. If your team loses, then you're unhappy. Until your team wins again, you're happy. Then you lose and you're unhappy again. If you attach your happiness or fulfillment to things you are and not your control, then you're going to have a very rocky road. I talked about this in another session. Be careful not to attach your happiness or your fulfillment to events, things, because events come and go. The last number of years, there's been no events due to what's going on in the world, to things, because things come and go, to money, because money comes and goes, to people, because people in your life will come and go. Nothing is forever. But what is forever is achieving that deep level of satisfaction of living a life of purpose that fulfills you, abiding by your values, irrespective of the result. See, I'm a fighter and I've won world championships and I've lost world championships. And the world championship that I went to in Argentina, where I picked up this great little World Cup, I didn't win any medals. However, the trip was magnificent. I caught up with my fellow Argentinian friends. I linked in with my world friends in Taekwondo. I went on there. I did my best on the mat. The cause didn't go my way. It was close. It could have gone either way. I went to my fellow South American friend and my English friend in my other sparring division. They won and they went on and got medals, and I'm really, really happy for them. And I'm appreciative they were there, because without them, there is no competition. I respect my opponents, because without my opponents, there is no competition. And that was not my event. It didn't go my way. But since then, 2019, that was 2018, later on in that year, I went to a World Cup and I won in the World Cup. Funny thing, I won the events where I didn't expect to win. I didn't win the events I expected to win. Isn't that funny? But if you compete enough, you become good enough and train enough and compete enough, you will win enough. But I don't attach my happiness or fulfillment to whether I get the medal, because that's not always in my control. It could be the judges, it could be the referees, it could be the other fighters just better on the day, and I respect that. Or I just had an off day, or things didn't go my way. That's okay. That's called rolling with the punches with life. But if you keep throwing the punches, you will eventually get the knockout that you want in your life. Because if I get deterred because when I lose, then I'm not going to get bitter, I'm going to get better. Don't get bitter, that sends you backwards. So average people will tend to attach their fulfillment or satisfaction. And don't get me wrong, I love following sport. I'm a Queensland State of Origin supporter. And when they win, I'm happy for them, because I know what they've done to achieve that. And I also know that when the Blues win, I'm happy for them too, because I know what they went through to do that. But I'll use that to energise myself to make sure that I'm living my dreams, building my event in my stadium. And that comes to the third group of people called geniuses. So we've got losers who lose their life in other people's lives by talking about other people. Remember what Peter says about Paul says more about Peter. So if people are gossiping to you, then it's a great chance that they're gossiping about you. It's not if, they're just not doing it in front of you. Then you have the average people who live their life by attending events and things, and that gives them some short-term satisfaction. Then they go back to their not eventful life until they go to the next event, which is not their event. Which is great, but sometimes if those events are not in your control, whether it be the weather, whether the performance of your sporting team, or whether the next James Bond movie is going to be good or not. Some people love James Bond, or they love the Star Wars, or whatever it might be, and that's great, as long as that's not a distraction from you building your own series in your life. Use that to motivate you to build what you want to build, not to distract you from building what you want to build by living in someone else what they're building, because it's mostly not your building and you don't have control. The geniuses are people. Genius people, when you talk to them, they're always talking about ideas and ways to implement them and how to get better. That's all they do. All they talk about is ways to get better, new ideas, new concepts, new philosophies, new businesses, getting better in your sport. And geniuses could be a mother who's a genius because she's always looking at ways to be a better mother for her family, for her children, to be a better parent, and she'll study and look at new ideas to build what's important to her, which is her family. Or it might be an athlete who's always looking ways to get better. How to hit the angles and how to get better on their speed and get better in their fitness and how to have a better strategy in fighting. That's geniuses. And what they do is they spend most of the time focusing on themselves. You know, if you want your team to get better, you get better. There's a great start. Don't blame the team. Don't blame them, train them. And most of all, that starts with you, the person in the mirror. So geniuses, people like Messi and Ronaldo and Ali and Bruce Lee or whoever you want to do. We've got Pele down there. We have here Sugar Ray Leonard and Tiger Woods and Michael Schumacher. They're all geniuses. I saw the documentary on Michael Schumacher, and he's up early. He's the last one to leave the garage. He's the last one working on the Formula One car. He's working there with mechanics. He treats everyone equally, and he's in there. He doesn't like, oh, that's the mechanic's job, and my job is to drive it. No, I want to get in there and try to make it better. Try to get that little edge, get the little X factor, get the Midas touch. So it's going to give me that edge, because at this level, there's those tiny little advantages across a period of time that will make you surface above the rest and take you from average to greatness. So if you want to get great, start thinking how great people think. And I don't know. Maybe I might be wrong, but I've never heard, sometimes there's a bit of trash talk, I know, particularly in UFC and boxing, but a lot of the time that's just to draw attention, to build the crowds. But actually underneath all the trash talk, you find there's a good level of mutual respect when all the dust settles. And that's not all the time, don't get me wrong, but most of the time there's going to be, I'm sure Ronaldo massively respects Messi, who respects Ronaldo, who respects Pele, who respects the Brazilian Ronaldo, who respects Maradona. They're all in the same group as saying whatever sport or business, whether it be entrepreneurs, whether it be church leaders, whether it be politicians, whether it be mothers. So what the message here is, be careful listen to what you say, because what you say is what you become. What you think, what you say is what you become physically. And if you listen to your vocabulary, that will give you a clue of what path you're on. Are you going down the loser path, where you're losing your life and you're spending all the time worrying about other people's lives and gossiping about them, and you always like to be the first one to give a gossipy piece of information, I can't wait to tell you what's happening with so-and-so over there, you don't even know them, you haven't even met them, you don't really know the full story, therefore, but you have a very strong opinion about it, and you become an expert, because I'm the deliverer of this gossip. That's Loserville. You surround yourself with losers as well, because they all talk and engage. I am a very positive person, so if I'm in a circle of influence and they talk negative, I just walk away. Because it's not going anywhere. Nothing positive comes out of negative. Nothing positive comes out of negative. So if you start hanging around, you will be the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. So if you look at the 5 people, you be the average of their wealth, or their attitude, of their position, of their performance, their expectation. You'll be the average of who you hang out with most. So if you want to run faster, then don't join a walking club. Because walkers join walkers club. If you want to run faster, run a running club. If you want to run faster, join a sprinting club. Go where the expectations are high. So listen to your vocabulary. If your life is dictated by the weekend or the weather or the next event or your football team or the next movie or something like that, and that's okay to draw inspiration from these people doing those things. So you're building your own movie, which is your life, your own event, which is your life, with your own game, which is your life. That's great. But if you're not doing that, if you're compromising that and living in the short-term gratification or pleasures or pains of all these other events as a distraction, then you're average. And your own life will never go anywhere, and you'll never be great or a genius. However, if you want to become a genius, then you start to think of your ideas and start to implement your ideas and live your dreams and take action on your thoughts. And start to hang around the same people who are doing stuff, who are doing positive stuff, whether it be whatever field that might be in. And draw inspiration from other people doing the same thing in their own field at the level that you want to perform at. And be careful not to worry about the losers who will probably start talking about you. If you climb high enough, then the pullers will start pulling you down. If you achieve at a level of expertise, then the losers will start talking about you. And that can be a positive. If they're not talking about you, then you're not climbing high enough. All right? If they're talking about you, then that's a compliment. Because they know who you are and you don't know who they are. So all the people who are saying that maybe Messi's the GOAT and Ronaldo's no good, Ronaldo doesn't know who they are, but they know who he is. So therefore, who's the loser and who's the genius? It's the losers who will talk about the geniuses. The geniuses won't talk about the losers. And the average in between, they're sort of somewhere floating in between. So you can live a great life by becoming a genius and living the life that you want to live, living a life of purpose, doing that really fulfills you. And that according to your values, and at the end of that, you're going to feel fulfilled, you're going to be proud. And how you measure it is up to you. It's your measuring stick of how you're going to measure your level of success. Don't use other people's measuring sticks, use your measuring stick. So stop being a loser. Don't join the average crowd and be a genius. That way you're going to live a great life according to you, and don't worry about what other people think of you, because it's none of their business. See you in the next Kman.